Are you a little bit like me? You've got hundreds, thousands maybe, photos that you've taken over the years. What do you do with them? What do you do with all the photographs you've taken? Do you print them? Do you display them? Do you put them on social media? Do you ever look back and see what you've actually taken? Or they're just left to rot in the archives? Join me and I'll try and work out what I do with mine. Roll titles. Hi, Brian James, that Micro Four Thirds guy with you once again. And by looking at those photographs, you see I've taken photographs of all sorts of things over the years. And just like the speed of that, I can drop photographs on top of each other and make a pile of them as high as you want. I've taken tens of thousands of photographs over the years, maybe hundreds of thousands of photographs, maybe more. And they all sit there in archive, either on the computer as in various file formats, whether it's raw file or whether it's a compressed file, a JPEG, or I've got negatives. And whichever way it is, it takes space. It takes either disk space, because when you've got hundreds of thousands of images, they do take a lot of their space in the end. Or I've got folders upon folders upon folders of negatives from photographs that I've taken 40, 50 years ago almost. They sit there in archive. But are they of any use? Well, I can divide my photographs into one of two major categories. I was professional for a long time, and from that point of view I took a lot of photographs for clients, professional photographs. And I'll come back to those in a moment, because I subdivide those too. But I also took photographs for myself, family photographs, home photographs, holiday snaps, going out and just trying to learn how to use the camera properly, going out and just experimenting, trying to find some fantastic landscapes or historic buildings or whatever it is that takes your fancy. Aircraft, I love air shows, motor racing, whatever it is that floats your boat. It's a personal thing, and they're your personal photographs. And they fall into a different category themselves. But let's go back to the commercial ones. Well, that's actually quite easy to answer. Most of my commercial ones were of one of three things. I did a lot of press photography. So from the press photography side of things, I'd go out and cover an event, and that had to be issued very, very quickly to whoever the press outlet was, whether it be social media or a news outlet. So you needed to get those photographs done quickly, the images processed, and then transferred over to the news outlet as fast as you possibly could. There was no time for niceties, for the little bits of detail and grace on it. So a lot of those I still have, but they were something of the time. Those ones I can use because they were taken by me as a commercial. I was the client in those, and I could actually put those out, except where I did some of the ones for the Air Force and the Air Cadets, because they come under Crown copyright, and that's a different thing. So I don't actually own the copyright for some of those photographs when I was doing it as a press photographer for them. There are the commercial ones where I was doing things like product shots or building shots for clients. They're great. I'll keep those photographs for a long time, because a lot of the time I would have sold maybe 20 shots after doing a day's work and maybe shooting 100, 1,000, 2,000 shots. I would have picked out 20, or the client would have picked out 20 or 30, whatever the contract was, and they would be the ones that I would have worked on and delivered. But quite often the clients, because they helped pick through what it was, will know that there was loads of different shots which they didn't need at the time, but are on archive. And they can call up and I can resell some of the photographs that I didn't use for that at the time, and I can actually sell more of those photographs to the client. So that's another income stream even now. The third one, of course, was a high volume when I was doing mainly schools photography, and that was taking photographs of people, especially youngsters, that I was taking photographs of in the school uniforms, the formal portraits that they have at school. They've got a lot of personal details on. And in the UK we have a thing called GDPR, and across Europe too. It's the General Data Protection Register, and basically that is our data protection laws, and they are very, very strict and very strong. So a lot of those photographs which I took just a few years ago, I now have totally deleted. I don't have the originals, I don't have any more of those, the copies of it. I don't have the work that I put into to actually get good quality photographs that I would have supplied to the client. They've gone. Now that caused a bit of a problem when Mum wants a photograph of little Johnny from 5 years ago, because she's lost the one, and she says, can I have another print? And I say, well, I'm sorry, you can't, because it's been taken off. Because a lot of the file names actually had the person's name that I was taking the photograph of as the file name, because it was a way of tying up the face to the name. And from a data protection point of view, I can't keep them, so they've gone. So that's one big chunk, and there was an awful lot of photographs there. That was one big chunk gone. That's the commercial side of things. What about the personal side? Well, before I go on to the personal side, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed already, there's a little subscribe box below. About 50% of my viewers are subscribers. I'm really, really pleased to see you on the channel here. But if you haven't subscribed yet, why not? It's free. Click the little button and you can be a subscriber. And don't forget to hit the bell and tick the all box, because that will get notifications every time I upload a new video. And if you can do me a big, big favour, give me a thumbs up, because the thumbs up helps YouTube's algorithms to spread my videos so more people can see them. And also, if you look below, there's a little PayPal link if you want to give a bit of support to the channel. You can buy me a cup of coffee, and thanks to all the ones who have. Anyway, back on with the video. So, let's see what I do with my own photographs. Well, things have changed. Things really have changed in the last few years. Photography has changed in an immense way. We're all using these things now. We're all using mobile phones. And mobile phones very much tie into social media. The two are interlinked, and it's created a whole new genre of photography which wasn't there 5 or 10 years ago. And this has caused a huge amount of new photographs to be taken. So it's not necessarily the fact you've got a camera, it's the ease that that camera can get those photographs disseminated. Now that's also changed how photographs are seen themselves. When I took a photograph in the early days on film, I used to have to take the photograph, and then I used to have to take it to the local chemist or drugstore, or put it into a little envelope and send it away, as I've said in previous videos. And it would take a few days and it'd come back, and you eagerly open up the envelope and see what the prints are like, and see what didn't come out very well. But that was how you did it. Once you get a little bit more enthusiastic with your photography and a little bit more advanced, you could consider trying to do your own developing and printing. And there's nothing, I mean nothing, in photography more satisfying than the first time you get a good print, when you've done all the developing and washing and fixing, and you get this print out of the tray and you put it up to dry, either hang it up or you put it on the flat surface to dry off, and you can see the fruits of your labours from beginning all the way through to end. It's a fabulous feeling, and it's something which has stuck in my mind for over half a century. It really is good. But the idea of using prints is very much different to what we have. So I'll come back to prints again in a few minutes. But let's have a look and see what we do now. Well, in the days of Twitter and Instagram, and if you're shooting videos, TikTok and YouTube Shorts, things are very transient. They're not meant to last very long. You take a photograph, you upload it, it goes onto this super fast social media which is there of the moment, and it's gone. 10 minutes after you've taken it, it's gone. It's gone into the ether. As soon as somebody looks at it, the first thing they'll do is look at it and scroll past to the next story or the next photograph or the next video. So all of that is a different sort of thing to what we had. It is very, very transitional. It goes very quickly. Now you may be uploading onto something like Instagram or getting it onto Facebook, which do have a little bit of a longer shelf life. And sometimes these pictures will come back after a couple of years, or people will share it around a little bit more. So it can be there for days, weeks, sometimes even months. But that's usually about the limit of it. If you put it onto a website, the website's a lot more static, but it also has an awful lot less people watching it. But that's all about other people seeing it. What do you get in the way of pleasure? Now I know if I've been out with the dogs or something and I'm taking a few photographs, or I've been on holiday, I'll post photographs off my phone or my camera straight up onto Facebook, and it's great. It's there, it tells the story. But it's not what gives me particular pleasures when I'm taking photographs. My biggest pleasure is not so much having it on the computer. I will look at it on computer screen every so often, but although it's nice and bright and it can be incredibly sparkling and intense, there's nothing more satisfying to me than having a good quality print. Now, looking at the comments, there's a lot of people do enjoy printing their photographs out. The inkjet printers that we have now are considerably easier than doing the old developing tanks. I used to have a developing trays and having to have a wet print come out the end of it. A good inkjet printer can get a fantastic result, but it's never really floated my boat. I send my photographs away to a developing lab, which I'm really happy with, in Manchester. And as I go through this, by the way, if I do say any product names, anything like that, I'm not sponsored by anybody on this video, and I'm not endorsing their products. It's just what I use rather than that. So just in case it does come up in there, if I say anything, then just bear in mind, nobody's paying me for this video, and nobody's paying me or giving me those products to use. These are what I've bought myself. So, but I'll use a lab. It's called, there's several labs. I use DS Labs in Manchester, and I'm really happy with them. But I'll send it down to a lab and get them to do a proper job of it for me. They really will. They'll balance out the colours and the light just right for the paper that they're using it on. They'll use the right profiles for the paper they're printing it on. And they've got some fantastic papers. I love the idea of having textured papers or the parchment type papers, which can really add a little bit of character to the shot. Some of the ones I really like are the real deep embossed papers, and if you're putting something like a landscape shot or a building, a classic building onto those, it can almost make the stonework or the grass almost three-dimensional on it. It's fabulous, and something you just don't get from a TV or a computer monitor. Now, I have a normal sort of 3-bedroom semi-detached house. It's not a huge house, it's an average sort of size home. So quite often I'll get prints of 16 by 12 inches, and they're a great size for me. I may top out at about 20 by 16, but in a normal house, 20 by 16, by the time you put it into a frame, because there's nothing beats putting a photograph into a proper frame with a proper photo mount around it. And I take mine to a proper frame, as I'm not very good at framing them. But when you do that, it can change the whole feel of a room, a whole feel of a wall. It can really put something which you can see. And to me, that's a very satisfying use of my photographs. But you don't get many of them. You might take thousands of photographs, but you have half a dozen in your home. But that's okay. I have a few actually. And when I get a new photograph which really gets under my skin, which really makes me think that's fabulous, I'll get a good print of it done, get it framed up, put it onto a wall. But then I'll put it into a rotation with other prints. I tend to rotate my prints around the walls quite regularly. Every couple of months I'll change the prints that I've got hanging up, and I'll store the other physical prints off to one side in the frames. And also, of course, different frames and different styles of frames and designs of frames can give a different feel to your room too. I love doing that. I have done some big prints in the past, and don't let anybody tell you that you need to have huge numbers of megapixels or a fantastic supersized sensor to be able to do a big print. I've printed on a 16 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor, and I've printed 40 inch by 30 inch, and I've found that they've been fantastic. The only problem is, in a room my size, you can't get far enough away from it to appreciate it. So it does depend where you put the print up. But I have printed that size very successfully. So don't let anybody put you off. You can do really useful big prints from normal format cameras. But I have done other things. I love doing the idea of canvas prints where they're put over a box frame, and they're great. You can really get some fantastic stuff on those. Or split the photograph up where you've got various boxes where you've got the same photograph but on various places. So you've chopped it into, say, thirds, and you've got 3 shots and expanded it out somewhat. They're really good fun, and they can be a really big feature on a wall. So what do you do with your photographs? Do they sit in the archive never to be seen again? Do you occasionally look back through them, or are they just history to you? Or there's something that you'll revisit on social media? I know on social media I'll put a photograph up, and maybe I'll revisit it 6 months or a year later and actually re-edit the original shot to get effectively a different shot from that same one. I'll crop in, or I'll put a slight tilt on it and redo it, or maybe put a different colour cast onto it and then re-upload it to social media. Do you do that? Do you have photographs of your own hanging on the walls at home? Do you sell your prints? Is there any way that you can use that as an outlet? Let me know in the comments below, because I really am interested. I love reading your comments. You've got no idea. Most of your comments are so positive, and most of your comments are so uplifting, even if they don't agree with me. But the best part of your comments is they let other people reading those comments, not just me, have an insight into photography. So what do you do with your photographs? What do you do with your originals? Do you get rid of them? Do you keep them? Do you keep them all, in fact? Because that's an interesting point. Unless something is grossly out of focus, or particularly too much on the exposure, or too little exposed, I tend to keep all of my originals. And the reason I've done that is I've gone back quite often in years to come, and I've found that there'll be one shot, maybe it wasn't the best shot, but it would have something special in it. And quite often I've gone back to a shot 1, 2, 3, 10 years later and found there's something in there. So do you keep your duds, or do you just keep the best ones? Let me know again in the comments below. Until the next time, this is Brian James at Micro Four Thirds guy saying keep on taking your photographs, keep on enjoying whatever you use those photographs for, keep on having fun with your photography. See ya. Bye.